So, Ohioma, could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you're normally based and why you're in Cambridge?
Oh, I am normally based at the University of Ibadan, where I teach in the Institute of African Studies. It's a postgraduate institute, and I teach the visual arts of Africa. And I'm here on a 6-month fellowship with the Center of African Studies. I'm involved in a project to study the Thomas collection in the collection of the MAA, the Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. I've been fortunate to be involved with you on this Combs project. It was something that I found enormous fun doing. So that's basically it.
And I have to say it's been really useful for us because obviously you're familiar with the region and also the collections as well. And I think the one thing that really strikes me is the variety in terms of the number of hair combs that Thomas collected. Did that surprise you when you saw them?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, going through the collection as I've been doing this past 3 months, I've found that the man collected an enormous amount of personal objects, that amazed me. As I've discussed with you in the past, I wonder how he was able to pry these things out of people and how he managed to get them. Yes.
And what's your experience? Because I know when you went back home over Christmas, you had a look for hair combs and talked to some of the artists that are involved. I mean, that's the one problem, isn't it? We don't have any names of the artists who created these amazing hair combs. What's your experience today in the region where Thomas was collecting? Are people still making hair combs?
I must say, first of all, that my interest in combs was zero up until now. I stopped using combs a while ago, and I'd kind of lost interest in it. But meeting you and getting involved in this project, it rekindled my interest in them. From the perspective of exhibiting this enormous collection that Thomas had made. And as to going back home and trying to understand what was happening in the arena of carving combs, I was quite amazed and very disappointed at the fact that I had great difficulty locating carvers, both in 2 major carving cities, Benin and Ibadan, that a lot of carvers did no longer carve combs. I found out, to my amazement, that foreign combs, particularly Chinese-made combs, had practically taken over. I visited the local markets. Besides the carvers, I visited carvers' workshops, and I found little or no combs at all. It's amazing how these Chinese-made combs have driven aground our own carved combs.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that people aren't continuing this tradition? Is it something that's happening for other kinds of objects as well?
Yes, I think generally there's a big erosion on culture, generally speaking, but with particular reference to combs, I think the Chinese combs are far, far, far cheaper than the carved ones. Carving as a tradition itself is going out gradually. Not a lot of people are involved in carving anymore. And then proficiency needed for them is also lacking. So it's a function of something common with the general trend of things.
And to my amazement, when you were collecting even some of the plastic combs, and your family were very kindly helping with the collecting of the plastic combs, we found lots of different colours of the black fist comb. What does that mean to people in Nigeria?
Well, I dare say absolutely nothing. I was amazed at your amazement that these things came in colors. We've always known them in different colors. I personally have, when I used combs, I had several all over the house in different, and I didn't want the same color in each room, so I had different colors. In terms of color, I don't think that it would amaze anybody or tickle anybody in that environment, because they've always come in different colors.
And what about the actual motif on the handle as well? What does the black fist mean to people?
Black power. Yeah, in spite of the color, I think it's the fist has always been associated with black power.
So that's a universal symbol, isn't it?
Yes,
in many
exactly.
respects.
Just the universality of it is what people remember when they see it.
Have you noticed any repeats of symbols on the older combs that Thomas collected? That might be sort of like an earlier equivalent or a more regionally based equivalent? Because some of the handles have quite ornate figures on them, don't they, or kind of patterns?
Yes, but not really actually, because I'm amazed again at the variety of designs that are on them. You know, not a lot of them are repeated, in fact. You know, so it's amazing how creative these carvers must have been in those days. You know, and how they were able to get these designs and put them on the combs. So I've seen quite a large variety of them from the Thomas collection.
And they were really very skilled craftsmen, weren't they?
Oh, sure. I am really excited about some of the things I've seen, not just on combs, but on musical instruments, on the artworks, the human figures. I've seen on other items of personal use that Thomas collected in Northern Edola.
When you were in Nigeria over Christmas, you did actually manage to find somebody who was able still to carve the combs. If I can just get one out. Could you tell us a bit more about these two examples? Because we do have the name of the artist on the back, don't we, of these? So could you tell us a bit more about this?
This is by Jimo Igodalo. He's a commercial carver that I had located. He'd been in Ibadan for quite a while, and had been in contact with him a number of times, and we'd always talked. And then in August of last year, I hosted an exhibition of his works at the University of Ibadan Institute of African Studies, you know. And so when I went back to Nigeria and was looking for combs, I went to him and tried to commission. I tried to commission him. He wouldn't want to do it. And he initially said his boys would do it. And after a couple of days, I went back, and some of his craftsmen had done a couple of them, which were not satisfactory. And so I got my computer. I went home and got my computer and came back and showed him examples of combs that I had seen from the Thomas collection, which he kindly gave to me. And then he got an idea of what he wanted to do, and he went ahead himself and made these combs. And to my amazement, this was the first time he was making combs. He said he had never made combs because he didn't learn to carve making combs. He learned by making objects and other objects and human figures. So, yeah, this was his first time.
Could you tell me a little bit about the design on the handle?
This is Jimo Igodalo is from Edo State. They are around where Thomas collected. And this is the face or the symbol of the Oba of Benin. This is a form that is quite common in Benin tradition and Nigerian tradition. The Oba of Benin, if you recall, it has relationships with the Festac mask, the popular Festac mask.
And what wood are they made out of?
This is made of ebony. You know, he said when I told him we were going to exhibit them here, he decided that he should use the most expensive wood, and he kindly got us ebony and made them out of these combs. I think there are 3 or 4 of them.
Yes, yeah. I mean, they're incredibly beautiful, and they must be very difficult things to make because of the teeth.
Yeah, the teeth. Yes.
And what about the other comb? Because you brought 3 of those back.
I got these 3 of them from an old carver in Benin who had forgotten about them. He had made 100 of these combs.
Really?
You know, and couldn't sell them. And over the years, you know, he said he'd had them for like 10 years.
Really?
Over the years, he had forgotten about them and put them away. So when I went asking for combs, he told me that he didn't have, but his son kindly reminded him upon my insistence that he should have or be able to tell me where to get combs. And so his son went and got a bag full of these combs. And he had made them many years ago, as I said, and allowed me to have a couple of them.
I mean, they're incredibly beautiful as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they look sort of slightly older than the ones that were done more recently.
Yes,
yeah.
The craftsmanship actually is interesting because, I mean, when you deal with miniature figures like this, you need good skill to be able to handle it.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's another comb that you brought back, which was this comb. Could you explain a little bit about that? 'Cause it seems to be have a hole at the top to hang it.
This is absolutely decorative, actually. I just stumbled on this in somebody's carving shop, you know, and he, the guy who attended to me didn't know what it was meant for. He thought it was decorative, and I said I made a long time ago, you know, but my interest in it made him to also develop an interest, and he started to ask if there was any present interest in combs, and I said yes, and he promised to make more.
Okay.
And he said whenever I got back, he would have more for me. The design, I think, is purely decorative, and I doubt if the comb itself, the teeth itself, is meant to be used for combing hair.
Are there different words for hair comb in the different languages or dialects that people use in Nigeria?
Well, Nigeria has many languages. The Yoruba that I'm more familiar with is they have their names for combs. The ones the women use to part the hair is called the lari, ilarum, and then the ones that are used for combing the hair proper is called the yarn. Those are the ones that I can't tell you. But basically, I bet that most languages would have names for specific names for the combs.
And what does the hair comb represent to the people in the region where you come from?
Oh. Well, they're a personal tool, a personal thing. They represent people's capacity to beautify themselves. You know, people use them to make themselves look more beautiful. And besides that, I don't think there's any particular interest in combs for them. In Yoruba culture, I know, however, that combs are used for certain purposes in making medicine.
Okay, could you explain a bit more?
Drivers, for example, I am told, you know, use combs to make medicine to prevent themselves from death. And you know, the whole idea of separating the hair is what makes combs essential to this medicine, because they say that when you use combs to make the medicine, you separate yourself as the hair is separated from death. And so you will find a number of them with some things tied around the comb. A number of car drivers particularly, you find such things in their cars.
And how did people respond to you asking them about their hair combs? Did people find it strange?
Yeah, a lot of them found it quite strange, you know, initially, you know, but when I explained the reason for my interest, you know, they were quite willing to discuss it with me. We have a couple of videos from Nigeria. But, you know, these are people who are used to being interviewed, you know, and they're used to receiving people. They knew the import of what I was investigating for.
Well, I have to say, I've learnt so much just from working with you for the past sort of few months on this project, both about sort of Northcote Thomas and also about the region where he was working or where you're from. And it's been really fascinating to find out about the tradition of hair combs, and that seems to be sort of dying out, and just what people are kind of replacing it with. Is there anything in particular that you've learnt from just sort of talking to people about the combs?
Well, I must be honest with you, really, I didn't have any interest in combs until I met you. And since then I've developed an interest in them. I was telling you this morning that I ask everyone now about combs, you know, and in the process I've heard quite a lot of things. I don't use any longer, but then I intend now to start collecting, you know, and I intend also to start writing about it. I've been looking in the literature. Not a lot has been done on combs anywhere, you know, and that is amazing. And this is something that we need to at least start to record and put down, you know, for posterity.
Well, that's wonderful news. It really is. It's great to kind of hear. Thank you so much for him.
Thank you very much.